Greetings. So today is all about the bass, the figured bass, that is. So this is our Toby Rush handout, and let's read it together. So musical works written in the Baroque era would often include a part called the basso continuo, which would consist of a single bass clef melodic line with various numbers and accidentals. So, in performances, the bass clef instrument would simply play the given notes, but the keyboard player would improvise a part based on the notes and symbols below the part. So, like for example, here we have a bass line, and we have the symbols below it. So the bass player would just play this, but the keyboard player would play something like this, based on just that bass line and these notes. So it's kind of an old school lead sheet, except much more difficult. I'm glad that we have lead sheet nowadays. So this is what they did back in the day, and we still use these symbols today for our chords and inversions. So let's move on and get a little deeper into this subject. So here are some symbols that we're going to need to look out for. And basically, if there are no numbers, you add a third and a fifth above the bass and you get a root position triad. So sometimes you might see a 5-3 under the bass note, and if not, you'll know that that's a root position triad because you don't see anything. So you just stack it up and build a triad there using the diatonic notes. Now, a 6 by itself, what do you think that could mean? Well, it means a first inversion triad, right? Just like 6-4 means second inversion. So, sometimes you might see a sharp 6. That means to add a sharp to the note, a sixth above the bass. Sometimes you might see just a sharp sign, and that means that you apply the sharp a third above the bass note. So here we have an E in the bass, and we put a G sharp a third above it instead of a G natural. See, G sharp's not part of that key signature, so we just added that. And then a natural 6 might come into play sometimes here, like we have a C. The composer wanted that natural, so we just put a natural 6. Okay, so that's Toby Rush's approach. We also need to look at the book a little bit. So we are in Chapter 8, Section H, and we're going to be doing number 2, B, the 4-part harmony here. We're not going to be doing 3 parts. So here's the bass line that we'll be working with. So let's look at the guidelines here. Alright. So review the figured bass information on pages 44 and 45. Then realize the figured basses by following these steps. A. Provide the Roman numerals specified by the figured bass. B. Compose a simple melody that will conform to the progression and at the same time will create a good counterpoint with the bass. Alright, and we're not going to worry about C. We're just going to make one completed version in 4 parts. So I have the page from the book here, and this is page 44 in your textbook. So we have this matrix here, and basically you have the sonority desired, the complete figured bass symbol, the symbol most often used, and how to find the root. So if a composer wanted a root position triad played, most often they would just write the bass note and they would use no symbol. And the bass note is the root of a root position chord. So the bass note would be the root. Now here, if they wanted a first inversion triad, they would put a 6. So you know that the root of the chord is a 6th above the bass. And here we have the second inversion, 6/4, and then it gets into the 7th chords. So today we're only going to be using root position and first inversion triads. So also we need to look at these symbols here. Okay, so number 2 here, we see that sharp sign again. So we have an E in the bass. That sharp sign means that you're going to be sharping the 3rd above the bass, becoming a G sharp, and then a B. So it's a root position triad with a raised 3rd scale degree. So instead of having an E minor, we have an E major triad. Now a slash or a plus sign in connection with an Arabic numeral is meant to raise that note. So here, if you look closely, we have a /6. So that means you want to sharp the note a 6th above the bass. A 6th above the bass would be F, and you see over here that it's sharped. So we'll keep an eye out for that, and we're going to be running into those things today. Okay, so here we go. Here's our bass line with our figured bass symbols, and we're in the key of E minor. So here we have the harmonized E minor scale with all the diatonic chords. So that'll help us. Now, so our first note is an E, and there's nothing below it. So we know that's root position. We have an E, we need to build a triad. E, G, B, E minor. That's a 1 chord, so we use a lowercase Roman numeral. Now, good place to start, 1 chord. And we have a B with a sharp now. So we know that that means to sharp the 3rd above the bass, right? So that would be a D. And here we have the B, D sharp, F sharp. So we want a B major chord, not the B minor, because we have the sharp. So let's put our B here, and then our 5 there. Next we have a C with nothing, so we know that's root position. C, E, G, that's our 6th chord. Now we have an A with a 6. So that 6 means that it's in first inversion. So we know that A is not the root of our triad. Our root would be a 6th above So a diatonic sixth above A would be here, and that's F sharp. So then we need a third above the bass, 6/3. Now an easy way to see this is just to restack it and bring the sixth down here, and there's our root. All right, so we have an F sharp, A, and a C. Well, if we go over here, we know that F sharp, A, and C is our 2 diminished chord. So we have an F sharp diminished over A. And that's our 2 diminished 6. Next we have a B again with the sharp. So we know that that's the B major. 5 chord root position. Next we have a G with a 6. So that's first inversion. A sixth above G. Is E, right? And then a third above G is B. So if we bring our E down here, we can see EGB is our 1 chord in first inversion. So we have an E minor over G. So we would put a 1, 6. Now here we have an F sharp with a slash 6. And remember, the slash wants us to raise the note. All right? There we have the slash 6 with the raised, a sharp there. So we'll do the same thing. We have an F sharp. Now, if we go a sixth above it and we sharp it, it becomes a D sharp. Now, we put our third here. We have an A. So our D would be here. D sharp, F sharp, A. If we look up here in our legend, we have the D sharp diminished as the D sharp, F sharp, and an A. So that is a 7 diminished chord. Yeah. So our lead sheet would read D sharp diminished over F sharp. And that would be a 7 diminished 6. Okay. Now we have an E with nothing. So we know that that's our 1 chord again, the E minor. This time it's in root position. Now we have an A with the 5/3. Remember on the Toby Rush, we have a 5/3 here. So that's a root position triad. Yes. And we have an A, so A, C, E. A minor is our minor 4 chord. A minor. And there's our 4, Roman numeral. Now, this 6 with the line, that basically means that this note is going to be the bass note of a first inversion triad, a 6th above the A. So a 6th above it is F sharp, right? And then we have a C. So F sharp, A, C. That is our 2 chord. So we have a 2 diminished 6. And then would be F sharp diminished over A. Okay. And again, we have a B with a sharp. So we know that that's our 5 chord, B major. Okay. So now we have our chord progression, our Roman numeral analysis complete. So the next step would be to create a melody. And so I have a melody that I worked out, and I'm just going to write it on in and explain to you along the way the notes, why I chose them. I start with a G. And then I moved in contrary motion. Notice the G is the 3rd of the E minor chord. We need our notes to stay within the chord, right? We're only using chord tones right now. So with the B major, we need to use B, D sharp, and F. And I chose to move in contrary motion with the bass up to a B. See that? Moving in contrary motion, the opposite directions. Now we have a C chord. So the notes I can choose from are C, E, and G. And I chose to go back down to the G. Again, contrary motion. And we have the F sharp diminished over A. F sharp diminished. We can use the F sharp, the A, and the C. And I chose the C again for contrary motion. Now, I don't always use contrary motion, but it's nice sometimes. Now we have the B chord. B, D sharp, F sharp. And I chose to just move stepwise right back down, again in contrary motion. Now we have the E minor, 1 chord. E, G, B are our notes to choose from. And I decided to keep that common tone. Now we have a D sharp diminished over F sharp. So we can choose D sharp, F sharp, and A. And I chose the A. It's moving in similar motion with the bass now. And the E minor, E, G, B. I chose the G. That's okay because we're not moving any parallel octaves or fifths right now, so we're safe there. Now A minor, we have an A, a C, and an E to choose from. I chose the A. And we are ascending up. We have the F sharp diminished over A. So we have an F sharp, an A, and a C. We have a common tone here. And originally I thought that would be a good choice. But I wanted to end on a strong focal point. So I chose the D sharp here. And I looked at it, and A to D sharp is an augmented fourth, right? And we want to avoid augmented intervals in our melodies. I guess to make it easier on the singers, because those are kind of hard to sing. So I decided to use the C instead. Still a chord tone, F sharp, A, C, okay? And it's ascending nicely to that focal point. Okay, you'll get to hear all this at the end. So, our next step is to fill in the missing inner voices. So we want to follow our doubling rules and our good voice leading rules. So, hopefully you remember the 3 rules for good voice leading. 1 is move to the nearest chord tone. 2, keeping the common tone is always cool. And 3, use contrary motion. Okay? And with root position triads, composers usually double the bass. With first inversion, they double the note that's in the soprano. And with diminished, composers usually double the bass. So, keeping that in mind, let's fill in our alto and tenor voices. So, an E minor, root position, we want to double the bass. So I'm going to do that up here. And we also need a fifth of our chord, so we'll put that here. Now, with our B major, we need a B, D sharp, and an F. It's root position. So our bass is doubled already. So we need a D sharp and an F sharp. Let's see. So we could move our F sharp here. Try that. And our D sharp here. Let's see how that works out. Okay. So here I see a problem. No, we don't. That's good. Okay. We're cool. Alright, so now we have a C chord. We need a C, an E, and a G. So we've got a C and a G. So we want to double the C. And we need an E. So we could go here. So the C, back down, D sharp down to C. And that's an augmented interval, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know if we want that. We're supposed to avoid augmented intervals. So I put our E here. That's a good place for that. And the D sharp could go up to E. We'll be doubling that. I don't like that. Why don't we switch these two voices out here in this chord and see how that works out. Actually, yeah. So if we move our F sharp here, is that going to be a problem? Well, if we look here, we have E to B, and that's a fifth, and then B to F sharp, another perfect fifth. So that'd be parallel fifths. I'm going to try something different here. We're going to triple the root and omit the fifth in this case. So if you're going to omit any note in a triad or a seventh chord, omit the fifth, because you need the root of a chord and you need the third to determine the quality of it, if it's major or minor. And to be a seventh chord, it's got to have the seventh. So a lot of times you can hear the fifth anyway in the overtones. So it's okay. Now, let's see what we have here. We can't move our C here, right? Why not? Well, if we look back here, we have an octave in B's, so that would be parallel octaves. So we're going to just move our G here. Then we double the soprano. Now remember, doubling comes secondary to voice leading errors. So you want to avoid the voice leading errors first. And if you can get the doubling in, great. So here we are, F sharp over A, F sharp diminished over A. So we need an F sharp, an A, and a C. Now, in first inversion diminished triads, composers double the bass, and we can safely do that here. Right, fifth to an octave, we're cool. And we just need a root of our chord. So E can move nicely up to F sharp. All right. Now, we have another B major. Let's try that D sharp again here. And this time, we can't do our B here, right? Because that'll create parallel octaves. So let's put our fifth here, our F sharp. All right. Now, we're going to, from a 5 to a 1, 6. So we have an E minor over G. So we need an E and a G and a B. We've already got the G and the B. We want to try and double the soprano, right? So let's see. We can frustrate the leading tone because it's in an inner voice. and move it down a third to B here, and then we can have our bass note, root of our chord here. Okay. So first inversion, we doubled the soprano. That's good. Now, perfect fifth. All right, to a major sixth. Good. And no parallels here. Good. So far so good without parallels. Now, D sharp diminished over F sharp. So we need a D sharp, an F sharp, and an A. We've got the A and the F sharp. So we need a D sharp. And it looks like we can come back to that here fairly easily. And that stays sharped, right? Unless otherwise indicated by a natural sign, we know that that D is going to stay sharped. So, okay, so we're going to need an F sharp, because composers usually double the bass in first inversion diminished triads. We can safely do that here. All right, going a sixth to an octave is good. So now we have our E minor, root position. So we've got the E. The D can move stepwise right up to the E here. And then we can put our fifth here. And the alto. Alright. Now we have the A minor. So we need an A, a C, and an E. We got the A's doubled already. Excellent. So we need a C and an E. Now keeping the common tone. There we go. It's always cool. And this B can move stepwise right up to our C. Now, our next chord, we have an F sharp diminished over the A. Okay, so we need an F sharp, an A, and a C. We've already got the A and the C, right? They're still being heard because those are half notes. So we can move this E right up to F sharp. And we're good. Because that is a fourth, and now we're moving to a fifth. Good. That's an octave, but we went from E to B, which is a third or a tenth, however you like. Oh no, that's E to B is a fifth. Okay, yeah, a fifth to an octave. Okay, so last chord, B major. We need a B, a D sharp, and an F sharp. We've got the B and the D sharp. So we have an F sharp as a common tone. Let's keep that. And then our C can move back down to B. And we're moving in contrary motion again, so we know we're safe. All right. Scan it real quick for parallels or any voice leading errors. And I think we're good. So we just realized the figured bass line and turned it into a 4-part chorale. Now All we have to do is hear it and see how it sounds. So, all right. I'll see you there. Okay, welcome back. And here is our realized figured bass line. I think that sounds very beautiful, and it was definitely worth the time that we put in on it. The composer who wrote this chord progression and the figured bass line chose a beautiful progression for a keyboardist to improvise on, and they would do that, and there's all kinds of different ways that they could go with it as long as they stuck within the parameters of the figured bass line. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope this is helping you along your musical journey. So until the next time, God bless.